So it's 7 past now, so I think we should make a start. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to MedEd Society's next event, and we're very fortunate to have Dr. Acheson with us. So Dr. Acheson, a little bit about him. He's an emergency medicine consultant and an Honorary Associate Professor in Medical Education at the Leicester Medical School. And he's also an artist that's living with Parkinson's. And so tonight, he's going to be sharing his Animate to Educate talk, which is where he talks about aspects of his personal journey and working to educate about Parkinson's, increasing awareness and the quality of care of patients in hospitals with Parkinson's. And I won't say too much more, and I'll hand over to Dr. Acheson.
Okay, well, thanks very much for having me. I'm just going to share my screen now. So yes, so I'm Jonny Acheson. Thanks very much for the invite. I'm an emergency medicine consultant in Leicester. Obviously, you can tell from accent that I'm not from Leicester. I'm from originally from Northern Ireland. So I'm going to be talking to you tonight about, can you animate to educate? That's the question that I'm going to try to answer this evening. But first, I want you to watch this video that basically sets the scene for tonight. So, so I there we go. So there we go. Sorry about that. So I've always had an interest in drawing. I drew a lot as a child, always a nation. I never received any formal training or took any formal exams, but I do remember watching my neighbour draw and used to copy what he did. Now, interestingly, he was a consultant surgeon. So I don't know why it's doing this now. So when I picked up a pencil again 2.5 years ago, it was as basic as that. One HB pencil, one rubber, some Faber-Castell index pens, and one A5 sketch pad from W.H. Smith. As I was saying, basically, sorry to recap, but getting back to drawing, basically went back to basics, just used a simple HB pencil, a rubber, and an A5 sketch pad with some Faber-Castell index pens. So where did it all begin? Well, I was sitting in work one day, and the night before, I was taking my daughter to Girls Brigade, and we were running slightly late, and she wanted to get to the door quickly and into the car. So she said, "Hurry up, Dad, hurry up, we need to go, we need to go." So I was sitting at the bottom of the stairs, trying to get my shoes on, finished my coffee, grabbed my keys, and put my coat on at the same time. And she could see that I was getting stressed and was becoming quite symptomatic. So when she saw this, she basically said, "Oops." She said, "There's no hurry, we've got time, we'll be fine." So in that moment, I realized there was a story to tell. And the next day in work at lunchtime, I just grabbed a napkin on my desk and a pen, and I roughly sketched out the scene of the night before. So the drawing began. So I decided then I would tell the story of the diagnosis of being diagnosed with Parkinson's back in 2016, it was 5 years ago now, by drawing it. And you can see the finished picture here. And surely I'll show you how I get to that effect. So I decided to simply base the drawings around the letter A, which is the first letter of our surname. Here I am on the left, my wife's on the far right, the two kids are in the middle, and we're in London. And you know, so you can see obviously with Big Ben in the shower where we are. So each picture started to tell a different part of the diagnosis. So in the evenings when I came home from work and after the kids were in bed, I picked up my pencil, a sketch pad, and I started to continue to draw different scenes. And after it was finished, I scanned it into my laptop, I cropped it, and I wired it to make the black lines darker. I didn't really know what I was going to do with it. I thought of putting it in a book for them when they were older. But one day I came across this, which was the World Parkinson's Congress. This is an organization that has a 3-yearly conference. And in 2019, it was in Kyoto, Japan. And they were running a video competition. And you could enter if you were a person living with Parkinson's, a healthcare professional, a carer, or a researcher. So I thought to myself, why not? So I'd drawn all these pictures that told the story, but it didn't have any words that went with them. So I thought to myself, should I tell it through my 44-year-old eyes? Should I tell it through my wife's eyes? Should I tell it through my son's 13-year-old eyes? Or should I tell the story through my daughter's 9-year-old eyes? So with all the quotes that she came out with, mainly when she put her head on the pillow at night, it had to be through her eyes. So 26 drawings later, 26 slides of text, I finished making the 3-minute, 30-second video on iMovie. And all I had to do was set it to the perfect music, which you heard at the start of the talk. So once that was chosen, I uploaded it onto YouTube, and then I submitted it into the WPC. And then found out in April that it had been shortlisted into the top 10, 12 videos that had been submitted. And they see the advantage of having a surname that begins with A is that they put them in alphabetical order. So mine was at the top left, okay? So in June, myself and my wife, we thought, well, what should we do? Should we go to Japan? So we ended up, we went to Japan to the conference. And although it didn't win, it was played in the main auditorium on the second day of the conference. So after that, the most amazing thing happened. People all around the world started to contact me to ask if it could be translated into different languages. I think in the end it was translated into about 17, which was pretty good. But when I got back from Japan, my 13-year-old son said one day, that video of Anna was really good. Do you think you can make one about me? So we sat down and we talked through what we put in it. It's always a challenge making a second video, but this was his story, so the two can't be compared. The challenge for me was coming up with another 26 drawings. So here, I'm going to show it to you. So he's a bit older, so it was the writing was a bit more mature, the drawings were a bit different, and it's just to compare the two, just through different eyes, one of a teenager, one of a younger child. So. Okay, so it's a different take there, isn't it? So there's a bit of humor in there as well. I think that one's better than the first. Is better than the first one, but it's just a different way of thinking about it. So what did I do next after I got back from Japan? So I decided I would continue the theme of drawing letters, and I decided that I would draw the symptoms by using words in their name to try to educate people around Parkinson's. So this was in conjunction with the European Parkinson's Disease Association. So this is an example of one of the symptoms. So if you've been in the George Davis Centre at all in the past year, you'll have seen these up on the wall. So they're up on the wall at the minute. So this is an example. What I'm trying to convey here is what stiffness feels like. So I drew the letters stiffness using the letter, made them into little tin men, put them in the yellow brick road, added the strap line to tie it all together. Now I think you need a combination of all three for it to work. So that's for give you an idea of what it feels like. So a few weeks after I started the sketch these, I had a chance conversation with the EDPA, European Parkinson's Disease Association, and we came up with the idea that I would draw all the motor and non-motor symptoms to match the educational articles that they had on their website. Now, there's over 40 plus different symptoms of Parkinson's, non-motor, motor, medication side effects, etc. So basically, that's what we did, and this is an example of how I actually do it.
This is how I draw it. This is how I started way back 2.5 years ago. So I got my page, I got my pencil, and then I would just say I was doing the stiffness picture. I would just draw the outline of the letter. So if I do it here, so something like this. So you just basically draw the basic outline of the letter very roughly. And you can see it's starting to take shape. And then you just go around. Again, just making your lines nice and straight. And bring that body and down like that. And then across. Up the other side, get the end of it like that, and then get the end of it like this, such here.
So that really just gives you an idea. So that's how long it takes to do one letter. So you can imagine how long it takes to do the whole thing. So it took me about an hour and a half to do each of those sketches, I think, from start to finish. But after completing the 32 symptom sketches, which took me about 6 months to do, I realized that they could be used in teaching to help educate, but also to tell sort of my own story of diagnosis. So I was basically sitting in the Leicester Medical School one day typing, preparing IBAN finals, and there was the faintest flicker in my left little finger. It was slight, but it was there. I also noticed that my typing had become slower. And I think in general, doctors aren't the best typers anyway, but even by those low standards, this was pretty poor. One finger and both hands type of an effort, quite slow. I would fall asleep in the evening. Before my 10 and 6-year-old went to bed, I fell asleep at the noisiest swimming gala you can ever imagine. Loads of children shouting. I was just lying sleeping on the seat. I even fell asleep at Leicester City Football Club amongst 32,000 fans loudly singing Jamie Vardy's Having a Party, fast asleep. I thought I was just tired. I thought I was just stressed. I thought I was working too hard. I thought I was burning the candle at both ends. I was leaving the hospital at 3:30 in the morning after a busy shift, hoping not to be phoned again that night. But I kept tripping, and I would scuff my left foot when I was walking as if it hit the curb, and when I looked around it was totally flat. How often do you look at somebody's footwear when you're in an outpatient clinic? If you'd looked at mine, you wouldn't have had the assessment gate, because you would have seen that it wasn't normal. But the one thing that bothered me was that I couldn't rotate my left wrist quickly. And this was discovered because my mate came into my house one night and he said, I've just been learning how to do Bollywood dancing with my daughter. And he was like, do you want to have a go? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. So we stood up and he goes, it's all about change the light bulb, change the light bulb. So we stood up and we tried to do twisting the light bulb dance. And I realized I couldn't rotate my left wrist really quickly. I would tell my hand to move more quickly. My brain would tell it and it just wouldn't do it. So I told my wife, and she said, right, I want you to go to the GP tomorrow, and we were supposed to be going on holidays to London. And I said I wouldn't get an appointment anyway, so we went to London. And then a combination of tripping and sleeping meant that we had to come home a day early because I just couldn't walk around London all day. So down to the GP it was. So when I was seen in the neurology clinic the next day, I was asked to walk from one end of the clinic to the other. I was determined not to scuff my foot, so I concentrated hard and I managed it without tripping. Maybe it'll be okay, I thought to myself. When I sat down, you don't swing your left arm much, the doctor said. I hadn't noticed that. No one had. Why would you? The neurologist leaned across and said, Johnny, you need a DAT scan. Now, I did pay attention at medical school. I'm sure you all do as well, but I don't remember anybody talking about anything about a DAT scan. But my wife, who's an old age psychiatrist, knew what the diagnosis was then because she routinely ordered them in her memory clinics. She simply told the neurologist he doesn't know what that is. I'm really sorry to tell you, the neurologist said, that you've got idiopathic Parkinson's disease. So the 32 sketches have not only been used to educate on the EDPA website. So if you go to their website and you click on the symptoms, you'll see within the educational article is my little cartoon. So this is one of bradykinesia, and that's the bradykinesia cartoon. And then they've basically got a list of, these are all the motor symptoms, and then all the non-motor symptoms. So there's a drawn for each of those on their website, and that those are the ones that are up in the George Davis Centre. So not only have they been in the EDPA website, as I said, they were in the Leicester Infirmary in 2019, I think it was. They're presently in the George Davis Centre, and then they're also in the East Surrey NHS Trust at the minute, and they're going to the Royal Derby Hospital next year. So that's been really good way to raise awareness of Parkinson's. So going digital and arcane. So last year I bought myself an Apple Pencil, okay, and I started to use an iPad. And not only did I start to draw the story of the diagnosis and the symptoms of Parkinson's, I also teamed up with the Royal College of Emergency Medicine over the past few years to produce their annual charity calendar. So I used a combination of sketching the outline of the picture on my A5 sketch pad, and then I used an app to transfer it to my iPad to continue working on it. And this is what a completed sketch looks like. This is illustrating the point that adults and children, the principles are the same, but they are different. So obviously everybody knows about A, B, C, D, E. I use capital A's for the adults and lowercase A, B, C, D, E for the children. And although the principles were the same, the patients were different. So that's quite a good way to get that point across. I won't bore you with the details of what I do, but I basically I'll draw the outline. I then take a photograph on my phone using an app called Carbo. I then transfer that picture into my iPad and then into Procreate, which is what I use to draw. So this is I'll just show you these are the 12 cartoons from the emergency medicine calendar this year. So just have a look at these. So I can't believe some of those made it into the calendar, and they're very they're really quite close to the wire, but they do tell the story. So I think it's been a very challenging year for everybody in emergency medicine, you know, and those cartoons, although they are satirical, you know, they do have an educational point to them. So finding colour, the making of basal ganglion and animation. So my art journey really continued, and there's different ways of using the iPad to educate further. So after experimenting with Procreate, I realised there was a lot more functionality to it with the art, and the art could go in many different directions. The main one being that I found colour. So this is Basil. Okay, this is Basil Ganglion. He's an animated character that I have created, and this is how he came about.
So I was just sitting at my dining room table one morning, and I put this badge that I got from Parkinson's UK on the table, and I thought to myself, how can I use this to educate about Parkinson's? So basically, I just added a boot, added another one, I added a hand, then I added another one, and then I just made his feet shiny on both sides, and hey presto, Basil was born. So I've used him to raise awareness of patients with Parkinson in hospital getting their medications on time. I've used him to show the importance of exercise in Parkinson's.
So I think that's really important. Those two big things, people with Parkinson's getting their medication on time and exercise, those are two massive things. So I think it's about using art and imagery to change culture and encourage healthcare professionals in the UK to wear on my lanyard there. You can get a little brain badge. You can get that from Parkinson's UK. If you just Google Team Parkinson, it costs you about £4 a year. You get a quarterly magazine about all things Parkinson's, and you know, if you're wearing your lanyard, it just shows that you're looking out for people with Parkinson's, and that's important, you know, for people like me with Parkinson's, because recently I attended my own emergency department with an unrelated Parkinson's complaint, but the nurse looking after me had one of the blue brain badges on her lanyard, and it was reassuring for me to see, what Parkinson's medication are you on? She said, when was your last dose? When is your next one? You know, do you have them with you? She said. And actually in 2019, people with Parkinson's spend an extra 28,500 extra nights in hospital in England and Wales just because they didn't get their medication on time when they came into hospital. And that's not good care. So Leeds do it very well. They've made great steps forward, but others need to follow. So if you want to get a blue brain badge for your lanyard, just Google Team Parkinson's and join. But it's also important for people with Parkinson's, and for as healthcare professionals, if you become GPs or work in hospitals, or you'll come across patients, because the incidence is going up. It's the fastest growing degenerative neurological condition there is, and there's going to be a pandemic in about 20 years' time. But I made this little video about Basil just to encourage people to exercise. So let's see if this will happen. So that advice isn't just for people with Parkinson's. So really, everybody needs exercise. So everybody should be exercising 2.5 hours a week. Okay, it's good for your brain. It's good for your heart. Okay, so if you're not doing it, then I would encourage you to do that. So Basil, that video has made a real impact. It's about, I think it's a pinned tweet on my Twitter account, and I think it's the last time I looked, it was 13,500 people who watched it. And that was after I deleted it by accident the first time, when 7,000 people have watched it. So that video's been watched by 20,000 people. So it has having a big impact. So not only is Basil in my sort of mind, but he's also the mascot in America for this blog called ParkinsonSecrets.com, which is written by two prominent neurologists, one in Florida, one in California. So Basil is he is their mascot. He's also the mascot for the UK Parkinson's table tennis championships that are being held in Cambridge this year. So he's their official mascot, and of course he's also learned how to dance. So. So that's just me having a bit of fun, but I've actually learned how to animate him. So there's an app called Flip-a-Clip. Okay, so that was used to do the table tennis one. That's what was used to do the dancing. So not only have I used Basil, I've also drawn a variety of other sketches to help educate about Parkinson's. So there's these two brains. So one obviously for males, one for females. Just generally, I've also drawn these two Lego figures, which Lego figures actually have quite a lot in common with Parkinson's patients, because they don't have much facial expression. They're quite stiff. They're stuck to the board, like when they freeze. You can't really see their invisible non-motor symptoms, and people with Parkinson's refer to their hands as Lego hands because they're a bit heavy and they keep dropping stuff. So that was just to give people an idea, children especially, potentially what it's like. And this is another one that tries to educate around what it feels like when your medications wear off. So when I was first diagnosed, my drugs would last 6 hours, now they last 2.5 maybe. And when I start to wear off, I'll get symptoms like this. I'll yawn, I'll get anxious, I'll get really tired, I'll get stiff and rigid, poor concentration, brain fog. It's quite difficult to explain because you can't see it. So let me ask you this. How do you picture Parkinson's? Do you see people with Parkinson's like this frail elderly man with advanced Parkinson's who's hunched over from 1886? Or maybe you see these images from Armstrong and Oaken from the University of Florida. Excuse me, one is of a younger woman who's running with signs of mild Parkinson's. One is of a middle-aged man depicting motor fluctuations. And the final one is an updated image of the 1886 one, again depicting a frail older man with using a walking aid. Or maybe you see this. Maybe this is an image that I recently drew, which is modern, race neutral, gender neutral, an image that's ageless, one that truly educates about, pictures Parkinson's, and one that most importantly, when a person with Parkinson's looks at it, they can see some of themselves in it. And I was recently approached by the University of Derby to create a second sketch like this. So the one on the left is the symptom sketch. The one on the right is another modern image of Parkinson's, but it's about management. So, exercise, cue strategies, flexibility, goal setting, fatigue management, medication, all the things you can do to help the things on the left are on the right. And then also in August this year, there's an exhibition in London in the Oxo Tower called Vivid Dreams. There's going to be 5 mannequins, which will be the show pieces that have all been made by people with Parkinson's. So I was a little delayed in getting started on my mannequin because it went AWOL in the post. The delivery company said it had been delivered, but it never arrived at my house. So somewhere in Leicestershire, somebody's got a mannequin that they haven't disclosed. So if you see or know of anybody who that is, can you please let me know? But when it did arrive finally, this is what I did. So I basically took this is great fun. I basically got a load of this black spray paint and sprayed it in my back garden. And then I got some sticky back plastic and basically cut out the symptoms. So I tried to make the modern image of Parkinson's man in like that. So that's it. That's it. That's the back. So it's not all about Parkinson's really. So I've done some medical art as well in the NHS. So during the pandemic, I did this one. So this was basically for anybody who was working on COVID, who basically you wanted to send them a bunch of virtual flowers to say, well done, thank you. We did that. And then that was made the front cover of the UHL magazine. So we took the concept of the roses and we did 3 petals to represent the 3. The top one was around loss, grief, COVID, caring, listening. The middle one was around the 3 hospitals and teams. The bottom one was around, survival, charity, stories, heroes. So the trust asked me to draw that for them. I've also done some medical art around sort of pleural effusions, pneumothoraces, pulmonary embolism, something that's quite visual. Vaccination wise, something as simple as that. NHS, yes, with the syringe, sort of feel good factor, that sort of thing. Did this around New Year. So, New Year coming in, everybody's starting to get their vaccines. So again, that was through Flipper Clip again. But I have to say, this is one of my favorites. So basically, once you become more experienced, you realize that on the wards in ED, there's 12-hour bed breaches, okay? So if there's a 12-hour bed breach, which means the patient's waiting for a bed for 12 hours, it gets reported to the Department of Health centrally. So there's always a lot of pressure on patients moving out of ED. So this is my take on it. So that's just that again. That's just making a point. So it's not all. I haven't drawn just about Parkinson's or emergency medicine in the NHS. So what I really enjoy doing is this. So I've set up a website which I do my art on. All the Parkinson sketches are on them, and if anybody buys anything, it goes to charity. But what I particularly like doing is this. So I do personalized pet portraits. Okay, so if you go onto my website, which is JonnyAchesonArt.com, or follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram on Jonny Acheson Art, you will see what I do. So basically, I take a picture of your pet. You tell me the name of it, and I will put the name in the shape of them. So that's Coco. This is that's Teddy. He's a brindle English Mastiff. That's Archie on the right. So that's him. And then so I'll do something like this. Okay, so that's Belle. That's Belle. So I'll just show you again. Yeah, all right. So just in case you missed it. There we go. So that's what I do. Yeah, I really enjoy doing that. It gives me a lot of things. And then I also do this. I will also do personalized animals by name. So for kids, I will take an animal and I will put their name in the shape of it. So that's Olivia, and then this is George the giraffe. Yeah. So I'm just starting to do that now. So and that's Eva, again in the shape of a bird. So I really enjoy doing that stuff. It's good. It's good. So what about the WPC 2022 video competition? Just tying up before we finish. So I came across this software called Be Funky. Now this is good stuff. So this sort of digitalizes stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take Basel, and it's in Barcelona. So we're going to take Basel to Barcelona, and I've started just the quality of the image is great. So this is, look how clean that is. That's basically tidied up, and it's basically put into Be Funky. Now that's pretty sharp looking, isn't it? It's really, really sharp. So it's gonna be good. So hopefully what I've done this evening is giving you a bit of an idea around how you can use art to educate in medicine. You don't necessarily need to be very good at it, okay? You can use Be Funky to, we recently cartoonized our department to make a little video around, you know, ketamine sedation. And that was just taking photographs of just in real time and putting them into to be cartoonized. So you can create an awful lot of stuff. You know, I would encourage you to have a play. It's very therapeutic, it's very relaxing, and hopefully you've learned something about Parkinson's as well. So thanks very much for listening. Sorry about the technical difficulties there at the start, but I'm sure you'll be able to edit all that before you send it out to people. So yeah, no, thanks for listening. I'm quite happy to take a few questions if you want to ask anything. Stop sharing.
Yeah, that was amazing. Thank you so much. That was really interesting as well to hear like your journey and how you've used your like animations and things to educate around the world. So yeah, does anyone have any questions?
I've got a quick one actually. So obviously one of the side effects of Parkinson's is, you know, the tremors and the shakes that you get, and it's not something that you really need to have for eyes, you know, a steady hand and a good hand. How do you manage to combat that?
So if I asked you a medical question, said what percentage of people with Parkinson's don't have a tremor, what would you say?
I can tell you, unfortunately.
Anybody? Did you know that? Did you know that some people with Parkinson's don't have a tremor?
I didn't actually know. That's new information.
20% don't have a tremor. So my symptoms really are on the left side, and you know, I write with my right hand. So you know, obviously it is a bit slower, but it doesn't. When I'm on my medications, it's fine. So that's my right hand tonight. So that's pretty steady. That's my left hand. So it's pretty steady. You know, it's not. You know, by 10 o'clock tonight, I'm just at the end of my medication dose now. So by 10 o'clock tonight, that would be tremoring a bit more. But you know, I'm pretty well controlled. So in a sense, I just drew a lot of drawing at the minute because I know over time I mightn't be able to. So might as well get ahead while I can. So.
And sort of a follow-up to that, obviously you have got a full-time career in emergency medicine. How do you find that is impacted?
So it's quite, the non-motor symptoms are probably more disabling than the non-motor symptoms. So the fatigue, multitasking is quite difficult. So I don't work in the main department anymore. I work in the observation ward where there's no time pressure. The patients aren't as sick. You can take as long as you want doing the ward round, and everything's a bit more controlled. So it's less tiring. You don't. The biggest burner of dopamine is stress. So you want to be in a job that's not as stressful. Working in a department that's less stressful. I only work 8 to 5. I don't do nights. I do the first Saturday morning every third weekend. And you know, you really have to conserve your dopamine or not burn it up, basically, because if you think your biochemical pathways, dopamine is made from what? Noradrenaline, which is made from adrenaline is made from noradrenaline, which is made from dopamine. So if I adrenalize myself, if I go into a really stressful situation and burn up my adrenaline, I get symptomatic. because I use up my dopamine. You don't get symptomatic because you've more dopamine than me. So, but I do. I'll get, you know, really sort of symptomatic. So, I think the key messages for people with Parkinson's are exercise, diet, keep your stress low, and you know, and exercise. Exercise, as I said, is it. It's about living as well as you can every day. It's about keeping yourself hydrated. You know, giving yourself the maximum chance to keep your symptoms at the least that they may be. I mean, there's days it fluctuates, you know. So I used to say take a day at a time, but now I split it up in the morning, afternoon, evening, and nighttime, because you know levels could be up and down. It could be, you know, fine in the morning, afternoon could be feeling wiped out, evening could be fine, or it could be the reverse. So some days I feel as if my medications aren't working at all, and other days I feel as if they've worked all day, and other days it's all over the place. So, but sleep's the big issue at the moment. I'm not sleeping. Sleep. People with Parkinson's sleep. They don't sleep well. So I'll go to bed about 10:30, or maybe wake up at 1. Some nights I might wake up at 3, 4. I'm usually up at 5:30. I don't usually get past 5:30. So it is quite tiring. But yeah, no, those are good questions.
I had a quick question about where do you get the ideas for your drawings for? So for some of them, they're really creative, and I never would have thought of it, like especially for the symptoms.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. I said at the start, you know, I always had to copy stuff, but that all changed, you know, the ideas just came. I mean, I knew I had 32 sketches to do, and I just had a symptom. I just had a word. So I don't know what happened. I mean, I think it was just a combination of trying to convey what they were like. I mean, I didn't have all the symptoms, but I had about half of them. But yeah, the ideas. I think people with Parkinson's in general are become more creative. They are quite creative because the medication obviously is to stimulate substantia nigra, you know, where the deficiency is, but it also stimulates areas of the brain that have enough dopamine anyway. So I think most people it will activate the creative sort of the creative side in their brain that was dormant, and suddenly it's here. So yeah, no, it's I don't know where the ideas come from. The dogs and the animals, that just came from my brother-in-law. He got a dog for Christmas, and he went, "Do you want to draw it?" And then I went, "Oh, I'll stick his name in it," and then it worked. And then I've done since September last year, I've done about 70. So you know, I've kept myself busy. I do about 3 a week, you know, just in the evenings. They don't take that long to do, and it's just people are loving it. So I'll just keep doing it as long as I can. So if you know anybody who wants one, just drop me, go on the website and there's a contact button. Just drop me an email. I'll sort them out. So, but I don't think Parkinson's is taught that well in medical school. I have no idea about it. You know, I think people think it's an old person's disease. It's just basically tremor, and it's not. It's a multi-system disease. It affects every system pretty much. And you know, it's not the majority of the incidence increases as people get older, but you know, there's 30-40-year-olds with it, 50-year-olds. So it is out there. And if you ever become general practitioner, you know, once every 3 years somebody will walk in your surgery undiagnosed, and you need to have it on your radar. The only symptom everybody with Parkinson's has is bradykinesia, slowness of movement. They won't tell you they've bradykinesia, but they might say, "I'm trouble turning the key, or trouble doing my buttons up, or trouble doing my baby things when the baby grows with the children." So or problems washing the dishes. You'll think it's neurological, you think it's neurovascular, or you think it's orthopedic, but it's not. A lot of frozen shoulders are Parkinson's. You know, it's just asking those broad questions. You know, if there's a motor, they will come to you with a motor symptom. But have you ever heard about the lady who can smell Parkinson's? You heard of that story? So you need to Google, after you finish tonight, Google the lady who can smell Parkinson's. and then have a look at that, because that's a really interesting story. And that's going to be the next step, because there's going to be a biomarker, and there's going to be a skin swab that will diagnose it potentially in the undiagnosed a lot earlier, which means they can start exercising, looking after themselves, getting on the medications earlier. But although the medications only mask the symptoms, if they do get a disease modifying drug, then they'll be able to get them on it earlier. So have a look at that. It's very fascinating stuff. So.
I think that's really interesting, actually. I think especially about the part where we as med students aren't completely educated about the realities of Parkinson's disease. Obviously, like you mentioned, we've been told, you know, it affects substantia nigra, you know, you have not enough dopamine. You're told a lot about the pathways and a little bit about, you know, the experience. But when that experience isn't linked to a real life person, you sort of paint this picture in your head and you get stuck with these like preconceived notions of what it's meant to look like, and when it obviously doesn't look like that, you tend to miss things.
I mean, I think that the outside, to the untrained eye, I don't think you would know I have Parkinson's. I mean, you might. I mean, my voice goes sometimes, but and my face is slightly masked. But I don't think, you know, in general, if you're not trained, I don't think you would notice particularly. I was worried about that in the consultant meetings, you know, sitting worrying about, you know, I was a bit facey masked, but I used to look around and everybody wasn't showing much emotion, so I sort of just blended in. So, but yeah, no, I mean, I'm more than happy. I know this was all about art, but if you want to, I'm quite happy to come back and talk to the year group about just a Q&A, just to have a chat. What we're doing now, just ask questions, because I think that's probably the most educational thing for you guys, you know.
I think that's definitely something we could speak to our head of neuro about, because as from what I remember, I think I'm a year older than the others, we didn't have anyone come in to talk to us about their experiences.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's changed since then. I think we've got a wide variety of year groups here, but it'd be absolutely fantastic if you'd be able to provide a first-hand experience.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. Happy to do that. It's only 5 years experience, and there's plenty of other people down the line. I think I can educate is a bit more than you. I could probably get you well educated within 45 minutes of doing this, and you would sort of reading 4 hours of a textbook. So it's time well spent.
I think that's the end of my questions, unless someone else has got any other ones.
I guess my question, like, have you got any future plans or anything in the pipeline?
Not particularly. I think, well, actually, I was talking to a guy today who works for he set up the Primary Care Neurological Service or Society. So I think we're going to be working with them to try to get Parkinson's on the agenda, neurological conditions a bit more into general practice. I've set up a support group for people working in the NHS with Parkinson's. So we did that in the summer. There was 10 of us originally, and there's now 22 of us. So we have a WhatsApp group every Thursday, and then we have a Zoom meeting once a month. So that's been a really good support. So really, there's lots to be done. There's lots to be done. I mean, I think, you know, keep working as long as I can, but eventually if I have to give up, you know, there's plenty to do. There's plenty to keep me busy. So it's not, I suppose you just have to take each day as it comes and see what you can manage. I think it's also about not taking too much on, you know, just taking, I usually have a 3-point rule that of 3 things on the go at once. And then if someone else comes in and say no, and then like after tonight, I'm down to 2, and then I'll add another one and do it that way. So that helps to keep it under control a bit more. So it's a good rule. It's a good rule to have that.
Really.
Yeah, good.
Thank you. Is there any other questions anyone has? You can talk, or you can type in the chat as well. I mean, if there's no more questions, I just want to say thank you again so much for coming and talking to us. It's been really, really informative. I think just learning more about Parkinson's, as well as learning more about how you can use, like, so for you it's like animation, for example, so using different ways of educating people about in your case Parkinson's. And I think I learned so much about Parkinson's more than we learn about at uni, so we'll definitely see if we can contact the neuro unit lead as well and see if they'd be happy to have you talk to the students in second.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, let me know. Perfect. Well, here, thanks very much. Thanks very much for having me. Sorry about the technical difficulties at the start. That's never happened before. I'm not quite sure what happened there. Anyway, but hopefully that'll have transferred. So you'll have the slides, and you might be able to match up with the audio or whatever. So,
That's okay, don't worry.
Thank you very much.
But yeah, thank you so much, and thank you to everyone who came. I hope you enjoyed, and tomorrow we've got 2